Welcome back to my kitchen. Are you guys ready? We're gonna do a Halloween recipe part 2 today. And today we're making ice cream cake, but we are gonna use Halloween candy in the ice cream cake. So it's a great way to use up your leftover candy, or if you're trying to get your kids not to hoard all their candy and eat it all at once, this is a way to kind of pace it out and have some fun. So we are actually gonna start out over on my stove, and I will see you there in just a second. Okay, let's make our brownies. This is the same recipe for both the ice cream cake and the candy brownies, and it's really easy. It's just this one pot. So I have a stick of salted butter that is already melting here on the stove, and I'm gonna add a cup of dark chocolate chips to that. These are the 62% chocolate chips. I'm gonna turn my stove down a little bit. I don't wanna see that much bubbling going on. We wanna get this chocolate melted. At this point, I'm gonna see how hot the pan is. I might actually turn my heat off. The last thing you wanna do is burn chocolate, but that's why we melt the butter first, because it kind of coats the pan and then the chocolate has something to melt into, so it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna wait till this is melted just a little bit more, and then we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients. They all go right in this one pan. All right, that looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna turn the heat down really, really low because we're not gonna need it that much longer. So I'm also gonna add a tablespoon of cocoa powder. We want a really chocolatey brownie. I don't like brownies that are too cakey. These are not too cakey, but they're also not just like oily fudgy, because I don't like that kind of brownie either when it's just majorly oily. And this will be a terrific base for our candy brownies, and also our ice cream cake is gonna be awesome. Okay, and then I'm gonna dump in this half cup of white sugar. I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Let's get that mixed together. Once the sugar is a little more dissolved, then I probably will kill the heat on this, because we don't need a hot batter. That's not the goal, but we are trying to kind of dissolve and melt those ingredients. And just reminding, my heat is on low at this point. All right, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of milk. I did experiment. I tried this recipe with and without liquid, and it definitely came out a lot better with the liquid in it. So hence the 1/4 cup of milk. That was whole milk. I think you need the fattiness. Probably could add cream. I didn't experiment adding cream to this because the milk worked really well and whole milk has enough fat in it. The next ingredient is going to be 1 teaspoon of good quality vanilla extract, and that is going to go right in. I also experimented with the levels of vanilla in this recipe, and when I used more vanilla, it was like too floral. So 1 teaspoon seemed to be the right amount. All right, at this point, I'm killing the heat. So I can add our eggs. So this shouldn't be too hot. I'm actually going to check the temperature with my finger. Yeah, it's warm, but it's not hot. And yes, I will lick this off, most definitely. Tastes absolutely terrible. So that is 2 whole eggs and 1 egg yolk that we are adding. And the brownie batter is not so hot that that's gonna scramble the eggs. That's the point. We heated the rest of the ingredients. We melted the butter and the chocolate, but we really, really, really do not wanna cook the eggs at this point. You can see this gets so glossy and beautiful, and you can beat the heck out of it at this point because there's no flour in here. There's nothing to make it get tough, and you really do want to incorporate those eggs. So that is all incorporated and lovely. And now I'm going to add the baking powder. This is a 1/2 teaspoon. I like to do that before the flour. For this recipe, I mean, you could sift everything together and then just add the flour, but I kind of like to make sure that that baking powder is incorporated all the way. And again, because this does not have the flour in it yet, you can totally whip that right in. We are ready to add our flour. So here it is. This is 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose white flour, and we are going to gently stir that in. I'm stirring this in. I'm not going too crazy. You don't want to beat the flour at this point. You don't want to develop a lot of gluten, and you just want to make sure that it's mixed in. Okay, and that is it. that is our brownie batter. It's, you know, piece of cake, really? Piece of brownie. So right next to it on the stove here, I have my springform pan. This is a 10-inch springform pan. I have put a piece of parchment that I buttered on both sides on the bottom. You want that for the ice cream cake, because if you don't do that, then you are going to have problems releasing it from the pan, and we don't want to deal with that. At this point, you are going to switch from your whisk to a spatula. Spatula just really helps you get this out of the pan. The whisk is a lot better for mixing it together. That's why I use both the whisk and the spatula. And that is it. So I'm going to give this a little shake to level it out. And then I'm going to pop this in a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes. And then we're going to put it in the freezer, but I'll show you what it looks like when it gets out. Here is our beautiful brownie ice cream cake base that I took out of the oven. If you kind of touch it, you can feel that it's baked, but it's not going to be super, super dry. That's why 20 minutes. I first tried these with 25. It was a little too long, so 20 minutes seems to be the perfect medium. So this is going to cool on my counter for about 5 or 10 minutes. Then I'm going to put this in the freezer. I want to freeze this for at least an hour. And then in the meantime, we're going to get our ice cream prepared with our candy in it. Yum. All right, this is one of the most critical parts of making the ice cream cake, and that is how to properly defrost and thaw our ice cream. These have been sitting out for a couple minutes, my big containers of ice cream here, just so I can get the ice cream out of them. I've got all my ice cream in the bowl now, and that is 56 ounces of ice cream. It's 2 of these bigger pints. They're not pints, but 2 bigger containers of ice cream. And this is probably one of the most crucial parts of making any sort of ice cream cake or mud pie. And if you watch my mud pie video, I'm going to say similar things. Is the last thing you want to do is over melt your ice cream. So what you're going to do once you've emptied it into a big bowl like this is you're going to come back and you're going to stir it every couple minutes, and you're going to keep stirring it until it looks like soft serve frozen yogurt, but it's not melty. It's really critical to get into the bottom of the bowl and make sure that you get anything that's melting kind of mixed in. We do not want this to be really melty. I'm going to keep showing you that process, and when it gets to the right consistency, then we get to mix in our candy. See you in a second. I just wanted to show you that I'm still mixing this in. It's got a little meltier, so I'm giving it a stir, and then I'm really pressing. You need a strong spoon for this, by the way. Do not use a wimpy little soup spoon or something. You really want to keep pressing this down like this and mixing this in. I thought you probably could use an electric mixer for this, so if you want to get your mixer dirty, go for it, but I'm going to build some muscles, and I'm going to keep stirring this. So our ice cream is at the right consistency. It was really only a couple more minutes. You have to watch this. It's not something you can really walk away from, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's not super melted. It's still pretty stiff, but it is the perfect consistency. And now we're going to mix in our candies. Yum. You can use whatever Halloween candy you want. I thought of this recipe because during Halloween, especially if you have kids, you've got a lot of candy sitting around and you get tired of eating it, or you don't want your kids to eat it all at once. This is a recipe where you can make it and kind of keep them from eating all of it at the same time and make something different. You can put as much candy in here, as little as you want. I don't have a measurement for that. I think I chopped up about 5 of everybody's favorite candy bar that rhymes with Knickers, and it's in here. And it is going to get all thoroughly mixed up. I'm going to pull out my brownie crust from the freezer because we are going to scoop this in. This is the brownie crust. It has been cooling for about an hour in the freezer. Make sure everything is cold. And now I'm scooping it in. We're going to get it all in there. All right, we want to spread that out, but we do not want to leave this out of the freezer for very long. Every second here is precious because it's going to keep melting. And if it keeps melting, it's going to change into a really strange, not delicious, icy consistency, and we do not want that. So just get it spread out thoroughly. You're going to pop this back in the freezer for about another hour. Then I want you to put a piece of plastic wrap over the top of this. And then it's going to chill for another 6 hours or overnight. And then we will do the ganache. It's ganache time. Ganache is just a fancy pants word for a chocolate sauce. It's basically the same thing that's inside of truffles. And in this case, it's going to coat our ice cream cake. And we already made one for our brownies if you watched that video. It's always the same. It's 1 part cream to 1 part chocolate. So this is a cup of cream that I've heated in the microwave. I'm going to add my dark chocolate chips that I poured out ahead of time so I wouldn't splash myself. And I'm still splashing myself, of course. The reason I'm doing this in a 2-cup measuring cup is that I want to be able to stir it and keep it all in one place. But you can also do this in a pan, and I'm going to get more chocolate chips because I don't have quite enough. I added more chocolate chips, and you can see well, it's probably a little hard to see, but we're exactly at the 2-cup mark now with the chocolate chips I added. And I'm going to let this sit for about 10 minutes before I stir it. So I will see you in a second. Our ganache has cooled for about 10 minutes, and I'm just gonna start to gently stir this with my fork. If you're doing this in a saucepan, then you can definitely use a whisk for this. And it's just gonna take a couple minutes, so just be patient. I did add a teaspoon of butter to this, by the way. And once we mix this together, I'm gonna add 2 more ingredients. See? Looked like we weren't gonna get there, and here we are. In the recipe, I used dark chocolate chips. I ran out of those today, so this actually has some semi-sweet chocolate chips. That's probably okay for the ice cream cake. The brownies are really sweet as it is, so I don't know if I would do that for those. All right, this looks like it does need just another couple of seconds in the microwave. It's not quite coming together 100%. So I'm gonna go do that, and then I will be right back. Ooh, you can see the steam coming off it. You can tell I put it back in the microwave. This is definitely more what I am looking for now. You don't want this to start boiling again. It's not boiling, it's hot, but it's definitely not boiling. So we're good, and I'm pretty happy with it. So the other 2 ingredients are going to be a teaspoon of vanilla. Good quality vanilla, please, only. It's the end of my bottle, so I'm just gonna pop that in there. And if you're using the dark chocolate chips that I recommend normally, then you're gonna do 2 tablespoons of this dark corn syrup. However, because I used the semi-sweet chocolate chips and they're a little bit sweeter, I'm just gonna do a tiny little splash. That was probably about a tablespoon. I might not even. I tasted this and it was already fairly sweet. That's how I knew that I didn't need to add too much to it. You can see how beautiful and silky this is now. We don't want to stir it too vigorously at this point because we do not want bubbles, but it is done. What we do not want to do is put a hot ganache on a cold ice cream cake because then we'll have a puddle and a disaster and you'll be very upset. So this is going to cool for at least an hour. This is pretty hot, so I might go a little bit longer. I'll let you know when I pour it on the ice cream cake how long I ended up leaving this for. And you're just gonna go till it's room temperature. It's not gonna totally harden, I promise. You just wanna stir it every couple minutes. You'll see it, well, not every couple minutes. You can stir it like every 10 to 20 minutes. You'll see it start to kind of harden around the edges a little bit, and then you can just stir that back in. So we'll leave this and I'll see you in a little bit. This is the fun part. So the ice cream cake, I have chilled this for at least 6 hours. When I said to wait an hour and then put a piece of plastic wrap on top, that's your chance to flatten out the top. You want that as flat as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not about perfect. It's about delicious. Here is our ganache now that has been cooling. This was pretty hot. It actually cooled for a long time, which was about an hour and a half. And I just stirred it every 10 to 20 minutes or so. Just whenever I walked into the kitchen and felt like it. So that is now on our ice cream cake, and now we're gonna decorate. So I have some chopped peanuts. I've got a couple little gaps. Let me just take care of that. Okay. So I've got some chopped peanuts. I'm gonna spread, I think, on the entire top. These are just roasted peanuts, lightly salted. I want to be pretty quick with this. The ganache is not cold, so it can still start melting the ice cream. So we really, really don't want to, I don't know, dilly-dally with decorating. I'm gonna get it on there, get it done, and get it back in the freezer. That is our goal. So I am trying to rush this as much as possible. Seeing as how I'm a perfectionist, I struggle with that a little bit because I want it to be perfect and beautiful. And now I've got some chopped up candy that rhymes with knickers that I'm gonna just decorate the top with. You can combine candies. You could do mint candies in the middle and mint candies on the top with some almonds or something. It's just endless possibilities. So I can see a little of my ice cream coming up right there. That's just my cue that I better hurry the heck up and get this bad boy back in the freezer or we're gonna be in trouble. Okay, well, I think that looks pretty darn good. I'm not upset with that at all. Cover up my ice cream spot there. I'm gonna put this in the freezer overnight and we are gonna taste it tomorrow. Just wanted to show this to you. I just unmolded the ice cream cake and it is beautiful. And we are going to cut into this right now. All right, well, my original plan was to taste this on camera, but I wanted you to see how beautiful it is. I mean, it's really, really, really beautiful and tasty. And you can see our layer of ganache and candies and brownie and ice cream. And I am going to dig right in. So those brownies are soft and stay together, which is fantastic. I don't know why, but there's a little bit of like donutiness that's coming through. I actually don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's something in the brownies with the ice cream or what, but man, that is good. Worthy of a second bite and a fourth bite and a fifth bite. Good. Oh, and look, you got this big piece of candy on the top here. I mean, oh my gosh. Well, I think I need to be alone with this for a couple minutes, so I'm going to do that. Thank you so much. I hope you try this recipe. You can find all my recipes on thegamblingchef.com, and please be sure to subscribe on YouTube and like and follow on Facebook, and I will see you next time.